Hey guys, what's up? This is Carissa here, and I'm here just filming a short and simple video. Hopefully, you guys know that I can talk at great length when I want to. But basically, I just wanted to address a video that I just filmed like 6 or 7 hours ago, and it's the video that's the second in my series about. It's called like the how I went from like hustle, grind, burnout to spiritually balanced. It's video number 2 in that playlist, in that series. I haven't titled it yet, so I can only reference it as that right now. But basically, as I filmed that right before I went to work. Was definitely late to work because I had been filming and I was kind of in the flow. And then I got to work, and on one of my breaks I was editing some footage, and I was feeling really, really good about that video because I got into the flow. I was speaking from my heart. I felt like I was really communicating what I wanted to communicate with you guys, and I was just feeling really great about it. And then I went back and watched some of the footage, and that inner perfectionist kind of kicked in and was like just kind of picking at me a little bit, and I was starting to deflate from that high of being like, yeah, I was in the flow and I did it and I filmed another video and I'm so excited to put it out there and share it with you guys. And I was starting to feel not great. And then I actually had 2 experiences with 2 customers that came in that at the time I wasn't relating the two, but knowing what I know about resonance and vibration and all that, and what I've kind of worked through since then, I realized that I was being kind of a match to these experiences, and that they were reflecting back to me some perfectionist tendencies that I was resonating with that I didn't even realize I was. A lot of notes, so I'm going to read off the notes and reflect to you guys. So here we go. Basically, I always start off by saying like how I feel and kind of like the wrapping up the last couple days, and it's almost like validating my inner child, like letting my inner parent witness my inner child and just be like, tell me about your day, tell me about your week, how's it going? And so I always kind of start off these, like, when I don't really know what I'm feeling and I need to reflect, then I just kind of start off being like, well, this is my day, or this is my week, and this is how it's been going. So, had a great day 2 days ago, productive with projects, but then I was too busy and didn't get enough sleep, and I had an off balance day yesterday, but I did really good at recognizing the self-doubt and the tiredness and being ungrounded, so I practiced a lot of self-care. Today I was proud of myself because I felt kind of meh when I was in bed, but then I just got up and I read a great book, had some coffee, had my feet on the earth for about 45 minutes, just grounding and earthing, and got a lot of sunshine. So I snapped out of it, felt great, knew I wanted to film something today, and that would feel like progress to me. Left the house a little bit because I was procrastinating because I was worried about how that video would go. Filmed for an hour, and I was kind of on a high because I knew that I hit flow and I was speaking from the heart. I already said that. And I loved it. Got to work and watched some footage on my break. This is where I start to get into the feelings of it. So as I'm writing, as I'm journaling this, I'm talking about like what emotions, I'm recognizing the emotions that I was feeling that were coming up. And I wrote, I felt dismay growing. I felt the sense of dismay, of like despair, but like dismay is kind of like the intro feeling, I guess, to despair. So felt dismay growing because I sound so scattered when I'm filming. I think I sound organized and like charismatic and vibrant, and I also think that I look pretty, but when I watch the footage, I can see like the gaps and the crookedness of my teeth because I've got Invisalign right now, and I've been self-conscious about my teeth for a long time, and I won't lie, like that's kind of part of the reason why I haven't filmed YouTube videos and stuff, because it makes me a little self-conscious, right? And then I started to despair. I'm writing this. I start to despair because how are people ever going to listen to me or like me or get past that, like the physical look of of how I look, to hear the message of what I have to say? Because we do live in a society where we judge people on their looks, and yeah, I'm just gonna stay present with the notes because I'm trying to keep this video brief. I remind myself that's probably not as bad as I think it is, that people can be more kind than I allow them to be in my mind. I feel a bit discouraged that I'm not great or stellar, like right out the gate with filming these videos. Like I still have practice to do, right? Of getting the right film angles and getting the right lighting and practicing how I speak and what I say and how organized I am in the videos, because right now I'm just figuring it out, right? I'm reflecting back on my journals and then just speaking real time, and I'm not even sure where I'm going with it. So when I go back and I watch these videos, I feel like I look sound really scattered and not as like crystal clear as I feel like when I'm speaking. So in my notes, I wrote to try to remind myself of that quote, authenticity will attract people more than an idealized version of me. But I wrote, but oh God, is that hard to believe and trust? Because I'm having a hard time looking at myself with love, even though I'm also proud of myself because finally I'm starting exactly where I am as I am. So I love myself in that respect. But I'm having a hard time loving myself when I don't look or sound perfect. So I decided to take kind of a break from looking at the footage, and I decided to go on YouTube to watch something to distract myself. And the first video that popped up was actually a tarot reading by Chloe Taylor. And I love Chloe Taylor. I've been watching her videos for years, her tarot readings. And I love I'll have to explore this in a different video, so don't get sidetracked. But basically, like, the idea of like quantum entanglement and law of attraction and our digital age, and essentially like what comes up in my YouTube feed is a resonant match to me. And so whatever tarot reading pops up, I just know that's the right one for me. And then I choose the tarot pile, and it's all good. So I had this reading with Chloe Taylor, and this is what I journaled about it. I said, I think that this tarot reading, it's drawing my attention to the internal aspect that I adopted from maybe my parents. This could be ancestral too, about being perfect, about looking perfect, about sounding perfect. And if I'm not perfect, then don't step out. Like, don't expand, don't express yourself because you could be judged for it, right? There's this like intense fear of being judged. I had 2 customers, and these are customers I've dealt with in the past, like several years, so they're like repeat customers, who I really dislike. And it's not that like the interactions were unpleasant, but like on a physical level, on a surface level, what we said, what we did, the words that were exchanged, nothing was unpleasant. But I know as an energy sensitive empath, highly sensitive person, and especially now that I've resensitized to my emotions and my energy, I pick up on people's energy. I know what they're thinking and feeling without needing, like this is going to sound really crazy and out there, especially if you don't experience this, but I know like people's intentions and can feel their energy. Like I can feel when someone is just being nice because that's their facade to get acceptance, but I know when there's like anger that can turn like a flip of a switch. I'm just in tune with that because I had to early on for survival. Like that's just one of the techniques that I picked up for survival and have really honed in working in customer service retail situations for like 10, 12, 15 years, longer than I care to remember. So I've really honed that skill. So I don't like interacting with these people because I can feel it's like walking on eggshells with them. If you say something they don't want to hear, they're going to turn like that. Even though you've been pleasant and kind and try to be respectful and try to help them, they're just really suspicious of like your motives, and they want things done perfectly exactly the way they want to. And as long as you do that, they won't get upset. But if you veer from that and like tell them stuff they don't want to hear, then they start getting really like nitpicky and just like bitchy. And so I really dislike dealing with these people, but these interactions were fine. There was nothing wrong, but it's just like it's under the surface, and I don't like that feeling. And it sucks to be in a situation where you're like, and I have to be here and like deal with that feeling and also deal with them. So anyways, I would classify that. So this is what I wrote in my notes. Both perfectionists who don't accept less than their ideal experience. It's annoying as fuck to deal with. Like, come on, just be more chill and trusting. It's way better than being your tight ass controlling, distrusting shit. Really, tell us what you really think. And then I wrote, and now I'm wondering if that's my internal resistance to my perfectionist. That's interesting, right? So like if we believe that the external world, and you don't have to believe this, but just, hear out my experience and my understanding of how I interpret my experience through my life, I guess. If what is externally around us is a projection of our internal selves, then how I'm viewing these 2 customers that I really dislike is really a reflection of this aspect of myself that I really dislike. So when I say things that sound really harsh, like annoying as fuck to deal with. Like, come on, just be more chill and trusting. It's way better than being your tight ass controlling, distrusting shit. But when I turn that voice inward and I'm saying, is that how I perceive the perfectionist aspect of myself? That's a bit harsh to talk to yourself that way, right? So, and then I wrote, because watching myself as less than perfect was causing such internal conflict that it made me want to cry. Like, this was like coming up when I was watching the footage. Like, it was really, there was like this conflict of like, I'm really, really proud of myself for being so consistent and getting on camera and speaking from the heart and being open and sharing with you guys. Really, really proud of myself for that. And I know that I can support myself no matter what. But there was also a part of me that was really ripping into me with this really negative internal voice. And I really pushed that away because it's not nice. And also realizing how I was talking about those customers that I disliked, I was realizing how much internal resistance I had to that perfectionist aspect, that yeah, it was being an ass, but also like, that's no way to integrate both aspects of myself. That's causing more internal friction between the two halves. So that kind of gave me pause to like step back and reflect, how am I speaking to myself, that perfectionist aspect? Like, it's not okay for the perfectionist aspect to treat me that way, but I've kind of got that handled. Like, as far as, okay, if we're starting to go down that path, then we change the subject. We're not allowed to think about that anymore. It's too heavy of a subject. We have too much emotional weight going, too much emotional momentum going on that. So drop it for now. Self-care, self-soothe, and then we can come back to it. So I know that I had my inner child covered in that aspect and respecting her, but I was being really nasty to this other part of me that is my ego part, that is the perfectionist, and does so that she can protect us from possible rejection. Right? So I was being really nasty to her because the way I was talking to about those customers was the way I was talking about her. So that gave me deep insight to that. Sorry, the Invisalign. That gave me deep insight to that. So part of me was just like, okay, so this is me journaling again. Sorry if I repeat myself a little bit because I journaled, so this is genuinely how I feel. So it's why I journaled that, but so I might repeat myself. Part of me was like, just be proud of me and what I've done. And then I'm being my soul, my innocence, my naivety on camera. I'm being genuine and loving myself and showing up consistently. That was one sentence. And then I wrote the next sentence was, well, why can't I look and sound the way I feel in my heart? And so what I'd said earlier, like I'm being genuine and loving myself and showing up consistently, there's a lot of pride in that. And that's like my higher self, because when you're feeling positive emotion, you're in alignment with your higher self. You're seeing yourself from your higher self's perspective, essentially seeing yourself through heaven's eyes, right? Through God's eyes, through source's eyes, through your higher self's eyes. You're in alignment with that when you're feeling the positive emotions, such as like pride, like I'm proud of myself. I'm taking ownership of and loving that aspect of myself. The second part that I wrote was the part that I'm at war with, that was like, well, why can't I just look and sound the way that I feel in my heart? And that was my ego self, the perfectionist ego, the perfectionist fragment or aspect of my ego. And it was lamenting. The emotions behind that ego was lamenting and frustrated, like lamenting, why can't I just look and sound the way I feel in my heart, and frustrated. So from there, now that I've journaled that, now I'm aware of these two disparate aspects within me. They're both me and they're warring with each other. And now I'm consciously aware of both. Now, and I want to just preface this kind of work, being able to identify these so quickly, it comes because I've put in the reps, because I've become more and more aware of the different fragments and how my ego tends to present itself. And I've done way back, I had to do like actual guided meditations to go within and really uncover these aspects. But now that I'm familiar with them, I have relationships with them. I've gone through this process of integrating and raising my vibration, or becoming aware, having them have a conversation, recognizing where the conflict is, understanding the conflict emotionally, what that means, how to heal it, how to self-soothe, and be there for myself, and then raise my vibration. Been through this process many times. So this is why it's going so quickly. So anyways, the next part, after recognizing both parts and letting them both speak their mind, letting them both speak their truth, because they are both me. from there, what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to look at where I am emotionally from the ego, because this is the part that's hurting and wounded. I'm going to speak the emotions from this aspect of me. I'm also very much aware of the emotional vibrational ladder. So the, I can't remember what it's called. The ladder of emotions, essentially. You can find it, like, if you Google search law of attraction, the emotions. It's basically identifying the emotions where you're at. If you're in a negative emotion, basically you can ask yourself, the emotion just above that, why am I feeling that way? So for example, if I'm feeling frustration, I can explain to myself what I'm feeling frustrated with. And the emotion above that is going to be worry. So the frustration is just an amplified version of worry. So originally it was just a worry, but then it grew into frustration, because where I'm at right now is frustration. Maybe if I'd let it grow even more, it would have grown into anger. And so then I would have addressed the anger. Why am I feeling angry? And then, okay, so what is this a sign of frustration of? What am I really frustrated with? See how it like kind of steps you down out of a more intense vibration of that frequency. And so then from frustration, then you can go, okay, so from being like really frustrated, what does that mean that I'm like worried about? There's like a worry behind this. So you're kind of like talking yourself down, even though you're talking yourself up the emotional vibration ladder. What you're essentially doing is like stepping down off the ledge. Like you're talking yourself down from this really intensity of negative vibration that's going on within you. And negative doesn't mean bad. Negative just means, I don't like the term negative. I would say lower that's not even it. We won't get into that. We'll do a different video. But going back to my notes to illustrate kind of the concept I just said, there was that phrase, why can't I look and sound the way I feel in my heart? I was lamenting and I was frustrated from the ego aspect, the perfectionist fragment of me. And so I asked, okay, well, if I'm feeling frustrated, what is the frustration? And I wrote that I'm not perfect, that I'm not my end state right now. Like I want to look perfect and I want to sound perfect and I want to be this like really well-spoken, well-expressed individual who can get across their point very clearly and succinctly without looking for the right words or whatever, right? So I'm not that perfect end state right now. So frustration with being the beginner. Again, I feel like I've been through so many journeys, so many years of trying to figure out who I am. And now I have to start all over again with being able to express myself clearly in the way that I'd like to. I don't want to be the beginner. You know, there's that frustration with that. There's frustration. There's a learning curve that I have to figure out, you know, YouTube and the algorithms and the film equipment and the sound equipment and editing and get into a flow. There's this just frustration, you know, that's built up. So, okay, frustration is the most amplified version of where I'm at right now, resonance-wise, frequency-wise. Then what am I actually worried about? This is climbing myself up the emotional ladder. What's really the root cause of this? What am I worried about? So I wrote, I'm worried that I might not get it right, that I'll never get to this point of continuous momentum. Will it always be stop and go, like take one step forward, 2 steps back? It feels like that. Will I always be doing this stop go? Will I always be doing this fall, get up again? Like, will there always be an aspect of me that doesn't like me? Is this always going to be this way? There's that worry. Is there always an aspect of me that can't measure up to society's standards to be accepted and honored and revered and cherished and loved and embraced? And when I wrote this, I was really feeling it. Like now the words are like flowing from my heart. Genuinely, what is my inner child, what is my inner self so scared of that I can't get? What am I really worried about? There's this perfectionist ego coping mechanism, defense mechanism that I was exerting into the world by saying these customers are frustrating me. Then I looked within, I saw that this was an internal fragment within me that was not receiving love, and that it was feeling a lower vibration, a negative vibration. And so she was frustrated, but then really at the core of that there was this worry, like will there always be an aspect of me that can't measure up to society's standards? And if I can't measure up to society's standards, will I ever be accepted? Will I ever be honored? Will I ever be revered? Will I ever be cherished? Will I ever be loved? Will I ever be embraced? You know, like clearly that like hits. Well, I was like, don't get emotional in this, like just stay clinical and just read the notes. But it is emotional, right? Like it hits it hits that core wound of separation, where we feel like our needs aren't going to be met, and we did things when we were young to mitigate that. And for me, that obviously a large aspect of that was perfectionist, and if I couldn't be perfect, then don't say anything at all, don't draw attention to yourself. And that led to years of not expressing myself and not expressing my truth and not sharing what I wanted to share with people to help them and to help encourage them, right? Sorry, getting a little teary-eyed because why do we do that? Why do we fan ourselves? But because that emotion is so fresh, and I think a lot of the journals that I share, that I have shared and that I will be sharing, those emotions aren't fresh anymore. So you're not going to get that live emotion. I'm not going to get emotional with every video. But this is obviously still a fresh wound, right? That's open. And it's hard to be vulnerable, open, and sharing with strangers, hopefully you guys aren't strangers forever. Hopefully you become, friends and good, people we talk back and forth and stuff with. But it's hard to be this vulnerable and share and just share. Right now as I'm filming, no one's watching this. It's just me sharing it in this empty bedroom. But anyways, okay, so I'm going to get back to the journaling. So if we go from worry on the emotional ladder, what's really happening is that I have a perspective, a world paradigm, a way that I'm viewing this situation or my life or me. There's some way that I'm viewing this that is pessimistic, that believes that there can't be a better outcome. So what is that? I've journaled, I feel pessimistic that I'll never be fully embraced for being me right now, even if I don't look perfect or give great advice yet or know how to speak well. And so pessimistic is always an interesting one, because I always feel like after I voice what is it that I'm pessimistic about, I'm just left in what is that next state, which is neutrality. It feels like, okay, well, we did it. We witnessed ourselves. We got to the root of the problem, and that wasn't so bad. It was kind of it's whoa, I had this big blown up emotional reaction, which was totally legit and valid. It's where I was at, but also that was the core fear, and all those emotions, all those things that I went through, it feels like chaos or drama, but not in a bad way. It just is. It is what it was. It was what it was. and now we're left with it's all out in the open. It's like in Breakfast Club when they're all talking about their stories and they just lay it out on the table. And that's what it feels like when I get back to that neutral state of now everything's out on the table. We've said what we need to say, and we've witnessed ourselves in such a truth state. And so from there, in that neutral position, I was this is what I journaled. I was well, what's my neutral state right now? And I was I just felt tired. I felt, even though I hadn't gone through big emotions over this, I felt just tired. I felt I'm tired. I felt weighed down, but it's out on the table now. I've been carrying a big pack, but it's on the table, but I still have it. It's still there. So this neutral was I was I feel tired of this narrative. It's exhausting to carry this vibration. And it is, if you think about it, this perfectionism and this weight, this burden of feeling there is a need that I have, which is to be embraced and to be loved and to be seen for who I am, as I am right now, even though it's not perfect. There is this need that I have that I just don't think that I can have. But part of me always wants that and has always wanted that. And so carrying around that narrative and that baggage, that emotional weight of I have this need that's not met and I don't believe it can be met. But because it's a need that I have, I'm always going to carry it. And so you don't ever get to lay that down and have it nourished or fulfilled or met until we acknowledge that we really believed that we couldn't have it met. And in acknowledging this, feeling tired of this narrative and that it's exhausting to carry this vibration, immediately what came, and it's interesting, the neutral part, and then you start to go, in the emotional ladder, you go from neutral into like an optimistic worldview. And then you kind of work your way into like gratefulness, gratitude, and love and joy and happiness, etc. But I wasn't feeling any of those big positive emotions yet. I wasn't climbing that ladder yet. But in that, after acknowledging feeling tired of this narrative, it's exhausting to carry this vibration, I just felt intense gratitude for, laying all the chips out, just letting everything land, letting myself be seen, like seeing myself and not pushing it away, like I had done with those customers and just calling them awful names and stuff. And clearly that's the way I was treating my perfectionist self. And I just felt grateful. And this is what I journaled. I'm grateful for parts work, which is recognizing that you have different aspects to yourself, different fragments that all need to be witnessed and seen. And that's how we integrate, is we stop resisting between the different parts. I'm grateful for parts work. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for money, the money that I have, for money to buy healthy food, for all the reps I've put in over the years in doing parts work that, and just the reps, the ability that this whole journaling experience, this going through the tarot and having those experiences, it was like an hour and a half period from going from like not terrible, but like not great interactions with customers. And before that, like, on my break, editing the footage, going to the external experience, being like, I need to watch a tarot reading, to journaling all about this and working through all these feelings. An hour and a half, that's it. That's all it took, and just knowing the steps and having the tools and having the resources and having put in the reps of doing it. I was so, so grateful for that I can be there for myself even when I'm at war with myself. That is unconditional love, guys. Unconditional love doesn't mean you're like love and light and perfect all the time, every time. It means that you can witness yourself and be there for yourself even when you don't want to love yourself, even when there's a part of you that you're at war with, but recognizing that what you want most is that unity. You want to integrate yourself. You want to love yourself unconditionally. And so you're willing to go through what doesn't feel great and what you don't want to witness. You're willing to go into those shadows and shine the light of your conscious mind into what is unconscious and bring it up and love it too and meet its needs. And I was just grateful that I can be there for myself even when I'm at war with myself, that I can find inner peace even if I can never guarantee feeling accepted by others, because there was that root core, that unmet need of feeling like, what if I'm never embraced? What if I'm never like honored and respected for just being me as I am right now? But the crazy thing was that in witnessing that aspect of myself that felt the need to be perfectionist and was really worried and had this belief that like weighed us down, in witnessing that, I became the unconditional love that part of me craved and needed. And in that, there was this like healing that now I no longer needed that from other people. I no longer... Well, I don't know if that's... I literally just went through this, so I might not be all the way healed through this, but I made significant progress in this, in that I'm not projecting that I need to be perfect in order to be accepted. I'm not putting that on you guys anymore to need anything from you in order for me to feel okay. Like I embraced that part of me that needed that acceptance and gave myself that acceptance. And in that acceptance, there's an inner peace that can never be taken away. That when that perfectionist part of me, if it resurfaces, if it's not fully healed, if it's still kind of a fragment of me, not fully integrated, if that resurfaces, I know where I can go find inner peace, because now I'm aware of that limiting belief that she has of projecting this fear of like, we're not going to be okay unless we're like perfect, like we're not going to be honored and respected for me as I am right now unless we're perfect. I can meet her squarely where she is and find peace within that. Recognize that when that comes up, she just needs self-soothing. She needs reminders of how awesome she is and the things that she's done that she's proud of just because she did them for herself. There's a lot of peace within that. Because you can't ever guarantee that you'll get other things from other people, and you can heal aspects of yourself by receiving support from others, that can be very healing. So I'm not saying that you have to do all this on your own, but if you're not receiving acceptance from others, that doesn't mean that you have to be conditional within yourself too. You don't have to internalize that rejection, because you love you, There's a lot of peace within that. There's a lot of strength within that. And it's gentle. It's not this exerting like, well, I'm just going to be me. It just wells up from within. Like, you're okay. You're solid. You're chill. Just like I wrote, like, I was like, come on, just be more chill and trusting. Like, that is what I get to be now when the perfectionist comes up. She gets to be more chill and trusting because I acknowledged her fears, and I'm going to be there for her no matter what. I'm going to support her through that, right? I'm here to embrace me, and I can feel the love of my angels, my guides, my ancestors surrounding me with love and pride and cherishing me. It was just amazing to see, like, once I witnessed the fact that I felt like I was not embraced, in that I began to feel more embraced. Like, in witnessing that, I brought it in, like, immediately. It's like coming in immediately. Then I wrote, and I know through law of attraction that if I can feel resonance with a vibration like being embraced, then it is mine. It's in my vortex, and it may not have physically manifested yet, but in embracing the vibration of being embraced, I'm no longer in resistance to it, and so it is mine. It must be so. It is law. And then I wrote 3 little hearts. See? 3 little hearts. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. It's odd to share it because it's so raw and it just happened, and so I still have things to process about it, I'm sure, but I wanted to share it because it's almost like real time. I'm not sure if I could ever do like processing all that real time on camera with you guys, but I think that's at least as close as I could get to that for now, which is just sharing that, and I'm sure in just sharing that, I'll feel witnessed as well, because, like, I guess it's like putting all your chips on the table. It's like, okay, well, here's my biggest fear, guys, and there's no more, like, hiding it and feeling shame or guilt or whatever. It's just, like, it's out there. It's not, like, it's no longer hiding within me, within this aspect of me that was the perfectionist, that had to adopt the perfectionist defense mechanisms. Like, that shame or that guilt or the feeling despair that she'll never feel embraced, like, that is now, that belief is going to be eroded because of the new experiences that I'm going to bring in. Even if it's just me, when she pops up and feels like I need to be perfectionist, me supporting her and embracing her, that's a new experience that she hasn't been able to feel before, and she no longer has to be defensive to get her needs met, to feel like, okay, well, I can only be embraced if I'm perfect. Now she gets to be another way, and she'll almost kind of dissolve because of that. That protector aspect of me is no longer needed in that respect, because we're meeting ourselves at our most core self. But anyways, yeah, so much for keeping this a short video. It's 35 minutes. I usually go about an hour, so that's not bad. But I wanted to share that with you guys. It's like a real time working through what I was feeling, what I was going through, and you can watch the other video, which, like, informs, like, that was the event that happened that triggered all this stuff that I just went through. So I thought that was pretty cool. But thank you guys for listening and watching. If you have questions or comments or whatever, feel free to comment. I don't know what else I want to say besides parts work is amazing, and there's tons of resources online. Eventually I'll do instructional videos on how to do all this type of emotional work and shadow work and parts work and all that good stuff, but there's a lot of good resources out there. I know the holistic psychologist, she's got tons of work on parts work and inner child work and all of that, so there's lots of resources out there for you. Parts work, guided meditations by Jason Stevenson and Michael Seeley. Those are also great resources if you're not sure how to access parts of you that you are not conscious of, because obviously you're not conscious of them. So at first you kind of need that guidance of how to get in touch with it. Tarot is another great resource. You can read your own tarot cards, or you can go on YouTube and just search, tarot card reading. You can research shadow work and all that good stuff. There's just so many resources out there. I highly, highly encourage it, because you're going to meet yourself at such deep, deep levels, but also recognize you don't have to go through it alone. I went through almost the entirety of my journey by myself, just using resources to reflect. I did not have a psychologist or a therapist. I sometimes I told my stories to my husband after I went through them, or my sister or someone. But really I did it all on my own, and I have, I'm working through my own hyper need to be independent. That's another aspect that I'm working on, is that I can just go to my husband and be like, I could go through and do all the inner parts work and stuff, or I could just go to my husband and be like, hey, can I talk this out with you, and have a hug and just feel seen. You don't have to do this alone, and there's lots of resources out there, and just know that you are being guided by your higher self at all times. Your higher self wants what's best for you, and your curiosities and your desires, those are leading you to those next steps. If it's in healing, that's great. If it's embracing yourself, that's great. Just there's so much out there for you guys. So yeah, and I wish you love, and I hope that this video was encouraging or insightful or something, anything that made you feel better than you did before you watched this video. So okay, well, that's it. I'm gonna call it a night, but I love you guys, and I wish you the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.